Welcome, everyone. Thank you for listening. This is Dan Kapersky, and you are joining us for Movie and a Beer with two wonderful co-hosts. And we are going to be covering a couple of three movies tonight, actually. We're going to be discussing...
Can we do that over again?
Yeah.
There was no energy behind that.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like, what do I want to say, because I usually have it written out in front of me.
I know. Okay, so intro, Dan Kapersky.
Welcome to Movie and a Beer. This is Dan Kapersky. We'd like to thank you for joining us in this wonderful podcast experience. My name is Dan Kapersky, and tonight we have with us...
Blake Hunt.
Movie expert Blake Hunt, and Randall.
Woohoo.
Also
That's
movie
me.
expert.
Also movie expert, Movie and a Beer.
Lovely. So tonight we're going to be doing a brief discussion about a number of different films to match up with this wonderful, wonderful set of beers that we were graciously provided by 10 Barrel Brewing out of Bend, Oregon. They do have multiple locations. They are located in a number of cities, including Denver and San Diego and Portland, Oregon, and Bend, and multiple locations in Bend. Really awesome.
They're everywhere.
Really good beer. They're widely distributed. Yes, people are mad they got bought out a couple of years ago, but hey,
you know what that means?
Wider distribution.
Exactly.
More money to make their product more awesome.
It means you get to enjoy it.
I really enjoy the fact that we reached out to them, they reached out to us, and we had a really awesome opportunity to have a dialogue about movies and beer. We have 3 movies to recommend with a couple of really good beers that they provided.
What are we drinking?
So we have the Guava Crush and the Raspberry Crush. First up, we're going to talk about the Guava Crush. The Crush line was introduced a few years ago, and it is a line of fruit-soured beers that 10 Barrel distributes and can very widely. This is a phenomenally good, amazing, solid beer. The Guava, I believe, is a seasonal and not a year-round. It started with the raspberry sour, I believe.
What is guava season? Is that... where do they grow guavas?
Spring, summer in tropical climates, I assume?
Spring, summer, tropical. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't want to drink this beer in winter, probably.
No.
I mean,
it's good.
It's phenomenal right now. I can't imagine it'd be that tasty during the winter. I could see it trying to be like a hot toddy.
It has a really nice, sweet, jammy front. The aromatics are really beautiful coming off when you first pour it. It's not very acidic. I know some sour beers can be kind of acidic and give you that funk. This has very little funk, and this basically it tastes kind of like a wine cooler mixed with ciders and wine.
Yeah.
If you are not a beer fan, this doesn't really taste that much like beer.
It's lighter. For one.
It is lighter. It's tart and fruity. It does have, I called it furry, kind of a furry fruit flavor profile on the tongue. So it does sit. It doesn't fall flat. It sits there. The acidity kind of lingers a little on the back. And you remember, hey, I just drank something or ate something that has this really, really nice full body flavor profile to it.
Is that true for all sours?
That is not true for all sours. Some sours are very thin. Some can be very full-bodied. This one does present in a medium to full body approach on the profile of the mouth. The flavors just are there front to back.
What would you eat this with?
I would eat this with anything.
I'm leaning towards Mexican food.
I
like taco.
Yeah. Mexican food, like a fish taco.
Ooh, there you go.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
Anything that the fruit would kind of bounce off of.
Yeah, I love it. So do we want to talk about movies now? Or do we got more to say about the beer?
This does lend to an opportunity to speak about different kinds of sours. So sour beers in general can be this full range of different types of fermentation processes. You can make a sour beer out of a high alcohol or a low alcohol base beer. This one is sort of a lower alcohol base beer. It's very clean. The fruit is expressed really, really well. If you are unfamiliar with fruit beers or sour beers in general, this may be a good introduction to them.
They're really good at expressing their fruitiness.
Yes.
Sour beers.
Absolutely. This would be perfect for I was going to say a barbecue, but then I also realized for an outdoor viewing of a movie on the side of a house.
Like The Princess Bride, perhaps?
What an excellent choice.
That's a really good choice of a movie.
That would
go one of the movies we decided to match this beer with was Princess Bride, which came out I didn't write down the date.
I believe.
I'm going to guess 85. 85?
84, 87.
87.
Yeah. 1987. That was a while ago.
Boy, we just failed our trivia team tryouts.
Oh, shoot. We're not good at that. That's okay.
So Princess Bride wonderful film.
Oh yeah.
You know, late mid '80s film. It does. You know, all three of us have seen it multiple times. Any nerdist or geek out there who does enjoy geeking out on films and riffing on themselves and taking and laughing at themselves would really, really enjoy this really approachable movie with this really approachable beer. I think
I would serve this beer at a wedding.
I would too.
Because I know everybody's going to like it. I mean, this is the perfect, if you're getting married in the summertime,
Oh my god.
this
It
is
really
the
would be.
perfect, reception beer, in my opinion. One of them,
This
right?
this beer is wildly approachable. It's like just anyone would like it. Like the movie. I don't think any of us know anyone who doesn't like this movie.
Yeah, and there is a wedding in the film. So
I wouldn't
it's like,
trust anybody who doesn't like this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Fair.
And how many quotable lines are there in this?
I think it's the entire script. Just copy paste every quotable line.
This is so good. This
Carrie
beer
Carrie
is
Yule's just
such
Carrie
a good,
Yule's
such a good
is
movie.
the guava sour
Yeah.
of leading men. I'm shocked he didn't get more roles from this movie.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Randall, you had mentioned about remakes.
So I was wondering why they haven't made this movie, and I guess
They apparently tried to.
there was some drama,
The studio
which
announced
is news to me.
Sorry. The studio announced that they were going to do a remake or a reboot. Like, we were thinking about doing this. And the fans, people who have only seen references to it, the cast, everyone was like, do not do this. It will not make any money. No
I
one
get
wants
it.
to see it. You can't make it better.
I get it. I mean, it's such a classic. I wish I could see it in theaters. Remember going to movie theaters?
Yeah. I
Those were the
do.
days when people would sit next to each other.
I heard a really crazy rumor that Justin Bieber was going to play Wesley.
Nothing against Bieber, whatever, but like not the right choice for Wesley.
You're not a believer?
Not for Wesley, man.
At the end of this film, there was 4 characters that were riding off into the sunset: Fezzik, Inigo, Wesley, and Buttercup. Which out of those 4 characters, which one of those is the Guava Crush? Because there's 4 of the Guava Crush.
I gotta say Wesley. I gotta
Wesley.
stick with it.
Wesley's the
I think he's the
raspberry?
most.
He's a bit snarky. I would
He's
say
snarky,
he's
dude.
more raspberry.
Yeah, he's a raspberry person.
Really?
I'd say Buttercup.
I think Guava. I would actually. Yeah.
I feel like Buttercup's more another.
Maybe Inigo.
You know what? We're just let's just
I
say
don't know,
it.
yeah. Fezzik.
Fezzik. Yeah, Fezzik's
Sure.
the guava.
Fezzik.
It's obvious.
All right. Another movie that this beer would really match well with was
Gremlins.
from 1984.
This was a prodigy child of the 80s sort of humor and sort of horror film. It kind of set the genre of, you can have this kind of interesting fantasy film. And while it does have some horrible stereotypes going on, there are some really interesting stories to be told about taking advantage of what you've been provided and being responsible for
Wait,
that.
are we talking about Gremlins?
We're talking about Gremlins. The story of the guy who's given
I'm a little lost.
he was given a mogwai
He was given a mogwai.
and
I'm
told
trying
don't
to remember
feed
the movie.
it after midnight.
Right.
Basic.
Okay.
And what does he do? He lets it
To
eat
be
after
fair,
midnight.
his
the
clock
rules.
wasn't working, and he was.
He breaks the rules.
Yeah.
He breaks the rules.
He
and
breaks
then-
the rules, just like
and
this
people
beer.
die.
This guava beer breaks the rules by
Just
putting
like-
guava in beer. Who would do such a thing
There's a lot of people who break the rules and set a new standard
in beer
which
making?
This beer goes really well with, because this beer also kind of amazingly sets a good standard for really approachable sour beers that are in a good price point that you can really enjoy.
And that's what I like about the Northwest is that we're breaking a lot of rules when it comes to beer making, I think. But also you can find the classics here as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And this movie is a classic. This was a gem.
It
It's,
holds up. I saw
it holds up.
like 3 or 4
enjoyable.
years ago, and it was still just as good as when I watched it before.
Yeah.
Dan, you had a fun fact that this film was set.
The set that this was done on was the same set that the movie Back to the Future was done on.
Randall, insert a spit take, please.
Wait, what?
Spit take. What?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Spit.
If you were going to have an opportunity to, I don't know, make your own gremlin, what would it be?
So this was a question that came up. Because if you have seen the second one, it seemed like there was just so many gremlins.
Different random
Different
crazy-
gremlins.
It's
Everyone
almost as if
designed their
some
own gremlin.
insane script
Yeah,
doctor came in
yeah.
and just demanded new gremlins.
If you haven't seen Gremlins 2, watch it and then watch the Key and Peele parody on the making of Gremlins 2,
Yeah.
it'll change your life. But if I had to design a gremlin, that's a hard question. It would be a gremlin. It would be like a professor. You know, did they have a Professor Gremlin that was released? No, they had that, right?
They had
the
Brainy,
gremlin that was.
but are you thinking like he's wearing a little suit
Yeah,
coat with
yeah,
jacket,
just
yeah.
a little
With the
suit,
elbow
little
patches,
tweed
tiny
suit
glasses.
jacket. No,
Waving a
I can do
baton
better. I
around.
can do better than that. Give me a second.
I would make a dragon gremlin. I would make one that was kind of like Stripe from Gremlins 1,
Right.
but breathe fire and, burn things.
I'd do a therapist gremlin.
Would it be good at therapy or bad at it?
I don't know. Like, I guess, what was the point of that sequel?
I don't remember.
That gremlins
There's more of them
can't
now.
be cornered into one genre, or I don't get it. Anyways,
I-
I'd do the cast of Friends as gremlins.
Ooh, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with bacon grease.
Now you're cooking with bacon grease. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that.
Like the Chandler Gremlins just me.
But yeah, Gremlins is a great show.
And
Great movie.
And it introduced us into healthy living culture where you don't eat after
Don't eat
midnight.
after midnight.
Don't
It's
eat
not a
after
good
After
idea.
midnight.
And friends don't change, just like Gizmo didn't change. Those other gremlins weren't his friend.
No.
They all changed.
Oh yeah.
So many moral lessons in this movie. It's so deep.
Really deep.
Cars. Cars is another movie we'd pair with this beer. Why?
Car Gremlin.
Because it's a kids movie, and why not?
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So Cars is a kids movie that I recently watched. My son and I watched the entire trilogy over a weekend about a month or two ago, and I thought it was great. I'm fairly certain during one of them I was drinking a beer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a sour. I wish it was this Guava Crush.
Excellent cast.
Yeah.
Amazing cast.
It's amazing cast. Paul Newman, I just realized today, is apparently,
Gone
ladies and
too
gentlemen,
soon.
Paul Newman has passed away
Back in 2008.
12 years ago. I didn't know this. This is big news to me.
Yeah.
You did the math. He'd be like 100 something
And then
years old if he
I
was
realized,
still
and then I
alive.
did the math, and I was like, okay, yeah, he'd have been like 100 years old by now. So he was an amazing actor, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm glad he was in the
He
first
was
one.
Doc, I believe.
Was he in the second one as well?
No.
No.
This was his last film.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, really?
Yep.
It was his last film?
Him and George Collins, I think.
Yeah.
Last film, and also last Pixar movie before Disney bought Pixar,
Yep.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So, wait, Dan, why are we choosing this movie with this beer?
My approach to thinking about how I would pair this wonderful beer with something that, hey, we're all at home, we're dating ourselves, we're in the COVID activities right now, we're all at home, we need to have time with our kids. Well, we don't have to, we're forced to have time with our kids and our family and our friends, so let's go ahead and have this really great beer that allows for, say, setting a standard. And
Nice.
the beer really is approachable and kind of opens up common beer culture to, hey, here's an approachable sour
Yeah.
that's at a good price point, is approachable, is available. You can get it at most supermarkets, at least on the West Coast, the Midwest. I don't know about the East Coast quite yet.
But that's like
It's formulaic. It's
Right.
like they have this great idea down of using this wonderful beer and doing some variations on the types of fruit they use. Cars generated this fanfare with like Toy Story. So the animation style that Pixar used, but within Cars itself, they went to Cars, then Planes. They have this great formula
Yeah.
for having beautiful voiceovers, beautiful visuals. It's an animation style kids like. They're gonna want to watch it.
It's visually astounding.
visually
It's
pleasing.
so good.
Just
Aesthetically,
like these
beautiful.
cans of these beers. I've always, I think that was the first thing that I noticed about the Crush
It's just
beers
how
is that they're in these white cans, and I'm pretty sure that's Helvetica typeface on the
Yeah, it
can.
looks like Helvetica.
It stands out. My best friend, Blake.
All
That's what I
right,
called you.
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
So, yes, slight variations on the theme of having this great writing, great story, wonderful voice actors. The visuals aren't offensive in any way. They're friendly.
It's a perfect beer for if you've been rearing the kids all day, you had dinner, you're all settling down for a movie, you put on Cars, you're like, I don't want to have a heavy... There's time
Yeah,
for IPAs,
Yeah.
but I don't want a heavy IPA right now. I'm tired, it's hot, I'm going to go to bed in like, an hour. I want something light, tasty, just... And this will go really well with this movie, the bright, beautiful animation and visuals. It's Yeah.
This was the last VHS from Pixar.
Yeah, but
This
it
is the
sold like
last
2
film.
million copies in a month or something, didn't
Yeah,
it?
I think it was 5 million.
I mean, it was the last VHS from Pixar.
What was okay? So this was a fact that I found. It's the last VHS that Disney or Pixar released before they just totally transitioned over to DVD or whatever it was. And then I was curious. Well, what was the last DVD ever produced? Blake, do you have an answer for us?
I do, thanks to my lovely phone that gives me all my answers.
Thank
The
you,
last
Internet.
the last film that was the final nail in the VHS coffin came in 2006, A History of Violence. That
Who is in that?
what's his
Is
name?
that Viggo Mortensen?
Yeah,
Yes.
Viggo Mortensen, Ed Harris movie where Ed Harris shows back up to, I guess, dredge it. I never saw it. I've wanted to,
Yeah,
but I've never seen it. But apparently that was the final VHS movie. I was kind of hoping they went a little bit longer and got to Be Kind Rewind.
Wait.
The movie literally about VHS
I
tapes.
know that would have been classic.
But,
Wait,
yeah.
is Viggo Mortensen still alive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and where is he? I haven't seen him in a movie in a while.
He's still making films.
He's still making
He's
films.
not here.
Okay.
He's New Zealand, maybe?
So those were the movies: Cars, Gremlins, Princess Bride. All wonderful picks for this wonderful beer.
Mm-hmm.
Easy, approachable, just a lovely, lovely experience. So, where do we go from here?
Well, we're going to talk about the other wonderful beer that was provided by 10 Barrel, and that would be the Crush Raspberry Sour. We talked with the representatives from 10 Barrel about the history of the beer a little bit,
Yeah.
and we were given some really great background on the fact that the beer was created by their brewer with the intention of making something that had kind of a framboise approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
But they wanted to have something that was repeatable, so it needed to have a really good recipe, and they nailed it.
This was the first Crush.
Correct. This beer's been around for a little while.
How long's it been around?
Oh, now you're going to ask me something I have to look up.
Internet to the rescue. We can't expect Dan to know everything.
Yes,
I
we
mean,
can.
he knows so much about beer.
If you don't expect him to know everything, he'll get lazy.
That's true.
I
That's
will
true.
get lazy.
Yeah.
Oh. We set the bar pretty high for you, Dan.
It's the only bar we can have because they're all closed.
Oh,
Cries into
shoot.
hands.
Oh, wait. Portland's opening this week, though. Does that mean bars are opening this week as well?
I think it's going to depend on who wants to fully open. Yeah.
Man.
Uh,
Are you guys going to go anywhere? I'm probably not going to go anywhere.
I may go pick up some beer at Prost tomorrow.
Oh.
that's amazing
Saturday.
because I'll be recovering from tonight and be off work all day.
Oh.
Well, we can go early
Yeah, like, you know.
because they're open Friday starting like noon until 8 p.m. or something.
Prost. Prost is great. Prost is on Mississippi?
and
yes.
Albina.
something.
Or is it Albina?
No, it's Mississippi and something.
Mississippi, yeah.
It's like
there.
right on that intersection.
I love Prost. I love that place. Don't they have a great pretzel? I'm pretty sure they have a good pretzel.
They have a big
They do
pretzel.
have a
They
good
big
pretzel.
pretzels.
Great pretzel.
I'm 50-50 on pretzels a lot of the time, and
Alright.
it's a fine pretzel. I just love the decor, just the all wood.
It's a really
It's
and they have that
so
patio,
pretty.
which is really excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners, if you're in the Portland area and you're looking for a good bar, Prost. Apparently they'll be open soon.
We will
See show notes for a link to their website, right, Dan?
Yep.
Okay, Dan. When did this beer start?
I can't-
Nobody knows. Nobody
No.
knows. You know what?
It-
it's
this-
always been around.
Yeah, this beer is immortal.
It's
I want to say it's been
forever.
at least 6 years.
6 years. That sounds right.
5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
This was the beer that started it all, though. What do we want to say about this one?
So I'm going to close my notes. I'm not even going to look at my notes because I have one in front of me.
Open it up.
How's that?
Tap the top. Always,
Tap,
it's
tap.
a can. Got to tap the top. So I do know from having drank this a number of times that this does have a beautiful, beautiful red, clear body. This one has a lot more punch to it.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
The
Why is this one
flavors
so
are more
much
forward.
Yeah,
This is classified actually as a Berliner Weiss almost.
Oh yeah.
Berliner Weiss.
A Berliner
I do remember
Weiss.
that.
Spell Berliner Weiss. B-E-R-I... no.
BerlinerWiesse.
10
You
points.
got it.
10
Bingo.
10 points.
My brain doesn't work great all the time, but it's great at spelling and remembering jokes.
Give this man a beer, folks.
Why, thank you.
Okay, it's a Berliner Weiss. What is a Berliner Weiss?
Well, so Berliner Weisses typically are a fruited sour beer. They don't always have to be sour originally. They can be funky
Oh, okay.
And then you add, because they usually do an open fermentation or some sort of process to take a lighter beer, allow it to get a little funk, and then they add a syrup to it. Or you can ferment it like a framboise, open fermentation, they add fruit to it when it ages in a barrel.
Oh,
So you allow the yeast to do its thing, and then you barrel it after the yeast has done its thing, after a week or 2 weeks or a month or however long you ferment it. It's going to continue to ferment in the barrel. So the yeast isn't completely gone, and you add fruit to it, which adds a lot of sugar. So it's going to be typically a little bit higher alcohol, but if you let it sit longer or shorter, depending on how much fruit flavor you want to impart. I've made beers as a home brewer using freeze-dried fruit, and I've had good success with
You were telling me
raspberry and
about those.
blueberry and a couple of other. I've made the ales with this method. You can do it with lagers. You can do it with anything, as long as you allow it to sit long enough to allow the fruit to impart into the beer.
So it's really a matter of time. Like, you have to be patient with it.
Correct. And depending on the style of fruit, when I say style, like, is it a strong flavor profile? Is it really acidic? This raspberry crush, let me tell you, as a fruited sour, is very fruity and tart. It's forward in the profile. It's not gentle.
So what does that mean, forward in the profile?
So the
You're
fruit
losing
is
me.
very strong in the front.
Like,
Okay.
you actually taste the fruit.
And yeah, I guess I do
Normally, right?
taste I guess I do taste the fruit.
So this one uses white wheat, raspberries, and has an inoculation of lactobacillus.
Whoa.
So
Blow
a
my
really
mind. What
long
is
word,
that?
meaning it was naturally made funky using lacto.
Naturally made
Which
funky.
Like
is-
Parliament.
So when you make cheese,
Sitting on that.
there's this thing called sour cream that cheese makes as a
What?
byproduct as the cheese is being made. The way
yeah.
I had a
you pull
bagel
off the
today. It
way.
was great.
That is the same. That's lacto. Like it's a bacteria that's naturally occurring in milk products in general, and you can add that bacteria then to whatever it is you're brewing, and it creates a wonderful sourness without funkiness.
I love it.
Yeah.
Open fermentation can be funky, not barnyard. This is not any of that. This tastes actually, to me, like a really well carbonated, forward profile cider. And it really does taste like a cider. It's not made from apples, so it's not really a cider. But it is made as a normal beer, and then it has this wonderful fruit added.
We got a lot of raspberries out here.
I should
It's
hope.
all raspberry all the time.
Yeah, I should hope if it says a raspberry on the can, they don't put apples in there. that's not cool, man.
All right, so we paired this with some excellent
Oh yeah.
foundational genre films that sort of started entire genres of other films.
Genres, careers.
Careers. Let's run through these really quick. First film we watched was Reservoir Dogs from 1992 by director
Yeah. Quentin Tarantino.
I'm pretty sure it's Spielberg, Blake.
Oh, you're right. Yep.
Pretty
duh.
sure it was Spielberg.
Spielberg and George Lucas. Yeah.
Just kidding. That was
That
the
classic.
other film we watched.
No CG green screen
Who
whatsoever.
did the soundtrack though? Was it songs or was it composed?
I think it's just a collection of like 70s songs. Stephen Wright, the deadpan comedian, is the radio DJ, which is a fun joke about how, like, typically radio DJs are like, "Hey, this is Squirrely and the Dan" or whatever.
Squirrely in the Dan.
But he's but Stephen Wright's, if you've never heard him, he's very like this. He talks very monotone and careful. Jokes like I spilled spot remover on my dog last week. Now he's gone.
Nope. Don't,
just-
don't know.
But he, they
gonna say
have him as the
really
radio
funny.
DJ, so he's just super,
Wow.
super Billy, super DJ 70s.
super funny.
So your favorite scene
Oh,
for your
it has to
favorite
be,
sour beer?
My favorite scene is the, which actually, it sort of goes with this scene. It's called The Commode Story, where Tim Roth and his mentor is going over, like, if you're going to get in with these, like, criminals and thugs, you're going to have, like, a good story. And he gives them the script of, like, a story that never happened, but he tells them, like, just go over it again, and again, and again, and again. You're like an actor. You have to have, have little details, do stuff, talk about, like, all this stuff. And it's just such a wild, it feels like Tarantino's a big fan of film, and it feels like one of those scenes where he's like, I love film, I love acting. This is my way of showing, like, how much I love the art of film.
Yeah.
And I've always said there's a fuse to a boom in Tarantino movies,
Each of his films punch you in the face like this beer.
and it's, yeah. And this one you think the fuse is like hissing, 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 and then like a dud. Doesn't go off. He doesn't get shot in the face or anything.
There's a cliffhanger? Like, you don't know if he lives or dies?
I think he dies.
No, you don't know.
You don't see what happens to Buscemi's character. Buscemi's character leaves the warehouse.
No, but the guy who's shot, the cop, you don't know if he dies or not. Isn't that right? I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right, yeah.
They fade to black, and you hear a gunshot, but do you actually see him die? No, you
They
don't.
fade to black for and Buscemi runs out too, yeah.
Mhm.
I just can't get over
Right.
that Mexican standoff that Tarantino loves so much.
It was a good
Stop
film.
pointing that gun at my dad!
It was a foundational film for Tarantino,
Oh,
just like
yeah.
this beer is a foundational beer for
Absolutely.
10 Barrel.
And there's so many good punches and booms that match that kick of raspberry flavor.
Who is the Mr. Raspberry Crush in this movie?
I think I'd have to go with...
I'm gonna say Steve Buscemi's character all the way.
Nah. Well,
He was just
actually, yeah. I would say Mr. Blonde, Michael Madsen's character, but he's just... That's more of a, like, triple IPA. You can't handle it, because dude's a psychopath. I think I have to go Mr. Pink.
let's move on. Evil Dead. Mr. Pink, I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Pink.
Yeah. Mr. Pink.
Yes.
Mr. Raspberry Crush, Mr. Pink. Steve Buscemi, if you're listening, you should definitely try this beer. It
And-
reminds us of you.
Yes.
Think he's listening?
You never know.
I sure hope so. Thank you for your service, sir, as a firefighter.
Oh, such a great guy.
Right on.
Evil Dead.
I am a huge fan of Sam Raimi. I am a huge fan of Bruce Campbell. I am a huge fan of the fact that this was one of the first films I saw as a young person to introduce me into the world of horror films. Back in the 80s, there was this huge push to kind of do really bad visual effects. Really bad visual effects that weren't practical.
Like skimp on the budget, kind of?
They skimped on the budget, and they would use this really super cheesy horror, it's fake blood. I also saw around the same time Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So you have these really, really not really believable special effects because they're practical, and they make it feel real. Now, the ones that Spielberg did, not so real. They looked more fake. Sam Raimi, his special effects and practical effects really provided, I think, a foundation for creating really funny horror.
Campy
Horror. It's
horror.
really good campy horror. This was based off of a Sam Raimi short that he had done. My favorite scene in a cabin, which was filmed in Tennessee.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that.
They buried a time capsule
What?
when production was done at the cabin. So if you can find out where that cabin is, go digging for the time capsule.
Wait,
Because
they don't know where it is?
Well, the
they
people in the film do, but they're
my
not going to give it out. It's in the woods.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be digging it up then. Maybe they want to wait.
I don't
Maybe
know.
that's an episode of the podcast where we get
don't
drunk
know.
in the woods in Tennessee.
So my favorite scene, Bruce Campbell chopped his hand off. Any movie poster you see of Evil Dead is he has a chainsaw on one hand as his hand, and the other hand's a normal hand. His hand got possessed. Well,
Hold the
that
boomstick.
hand that he chopped off, he fought. He literally got in a fight with his own hand. His hand tried to take him out over and over and over, and it's actually quite hilarious. It takes like 10 or 15 minutes.
It's a
In the
it's
film.
a weirdly long scene, but it's amazing.
a really weird long scene. But that sets the whole, like, it takes itself serious, but not really too serious. I read up that they had used, during some of the practical effects of, like, when the body melts or when the head melts in some of the scenes, they use organic material, like they used noodles, oatmeal.
Oh, nice.
They used all kinds of actual practical stuff to make it look real. The film obviously was done cheaply, but it's really good and classic.
It's
and
such a good movie.
Hey,
Wait.
guys, have you seen a movie called Happy Birthday to Me that also came out in 1981?
I have not, but based on the poster, I need to.
Virginia's group of friends start to go missing years after horrible events that happened to her as a child around her birthday. Look at this poster. It's a guy who's getting stabbed in the mouth with a shish kebab. Come on.
It's
guys.
wild.
We gotta watch this.
We're
Yeah.
absolutely going to have to find something to pair with that. That's amazing. I looked up the poster for Evil Dead, and there's a quote from the King of Horror, Stephen King. The most ferociously original horror film of the year. If anyone knows horror, I think it'd be Stephen King.
Really? Why do you say that, Blake?
Because that one like collection of stories, Stand By Me, pretty scary.
I'm just kidding.
Or sorry, The Body.
He's the king of horror. Okay, let's wrap this up with another classic that goes well with this beer.
So the next film that at least some of us watched, and some of us have watched a dozen times or more in the last month or two.
Look at Randall.
My son is in love with this film, and he had never seen it up until a few months ago. And I'm like, "What? You've never seen E.T.?"
Yeah.
And then we watched it, and that's all he wants to watch now.
Over and over and over.
I mean,
we watched it with him, and it was
But
great.
he's 7.
Yeah.
And no, he really has good taste in movies.
I'm about to say,
And
he
so this
could
was a
be
good
watching
movie.
something that's just garbage, and this
Yeah,
is...
I know. Seriously, he has amazing
out.
taste. So if we're watching E.T. 12 times this month, you know what? So be
Yeah.
it. I'm
Yeah.
having a raspberry crush to keep me awake for the 13th time.
Yeah. I saw this in the theater.
You saw it in the theater.
I was 10 years old. I saw it in the theater. My parents were nice enough to take me to go see this film. I have older brothers. They also went along. But again, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I would enjoy a really nice beer while I watch the film to help me wash away the shame of admitting that I did actually see this in the theater that many years ago.
Wow. That was
That
a
was
long
like
time ago.
That was almost 40 years ago.
I think that's
40
awesome.
years ago.
It was like 38 years ago, dude.
And you know what? Watching that movie, I mean, it looks amazing. Like, it's going to look just as good 40 years from now.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think the film really does hold up over time.
Oh, yeah.
You have to suspend belief, as you do with most Spielberg movies.
I would have chosen the guava for this one, actually, but the raspberry went really well with it, too.
Yeah.
Raspberry did surprisingly go well. Like the scenes where E.T. like screeches out of panic kind of matches that, like, oh, ooh, flavor. Ooh, okay, there's a lighter flavor behind it. I like it. My favorite scene, the final flying scene, when the kids are all escaping and the cops pull up and they got them blocked off, and E.T. raises, I guess, telekinetically, or uses love, whatever.
Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah, Jedi mind tricks. He recognized Yoda. Lifts up
These
Elliot.
are not the bicycles you are looking for.
Right.
Lifts up Elliot and his older brother and his friends up above the cops and flies over the woods of, I think, California. They said it was Northern California. And they land at his radar dish. And just the music swells. It's classic John Williams. It's like the most iconic scene. I love it. It's beautiful.
Okay, so we've discussed a couple of really wonderful beers matched up with a bunch of really great movies. We do have a number of suggestions that you can discover on our site, along with the liner notes of this, in more detail. If you would like to watch one of these films, we highly recommend you do so. Remember to hydrate as you go. We would like to definitely reach out and say thank you to 10 Barrel for providing us with these wonderful beers. And the discussions we had with them regarding the films that they enjoyed and working with them has been really great. And
Absolutely.
We want to give them much props. They make good product, can't complain.
They really do.
If I'm going to risk my life, once things open back up, I'm going to go to 10 Barrel.
I'm there with you, bud.
The brewery is just amazing. It's beautiful. It has this rooftop deck that's to die for. So grateful to live in the Northwest.
Yep.
Okay, let's
say
just
goodbye.
say goodbye, good drinking, drink responsibly,
Hydrate or dehydrate.
hydrate or dihydrate.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Dan Kapersky for Movie and a Beer. Please remember to hydrate while you enjoy your beverages with these movies. And we will join you on our next episode. Take care, everyone. Thanks
Goodbye.
for listening.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.